welcome to Lety Does Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. So, I'm pretty excited this morning. I'm glad the sun came out so that I can record a bit more because I thought it was going to be an overcast, but this is pretty great. I have good feelings. Oh man, I'm so freaking excited. I'm going to see Merle from The Walking Dead again. Okay, so I'm heading over into the movie theater right now so I can go check it out, but some things I'm going to be looking for is, well, you know, I already know who to expect in regards to the Guardians that are going to be there, so mostly I'm just worried about Ego, and I wonder if pretty much he's going to make any sense, so that is something that I am going to be looking out for. I hope it does. But yeah, I am so excited for this movie. It's been years since the last one, and yeah, I can't wait to see Chris Pratt again. He's the funniest guy. And then there's baby Groot, and oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I gotta go. Bye! Okay, so I've got my tickets and I'm going in. Look it! It's Thor! And then there's Spider-Man, Wonder Woman. This is so freaking cool. Anyway. Yep. About to go in, so let's go save the galaxy. Okay guys, so I just got out watching Guardians of the Galaxy, and I had already walked out of the movie theater because it's like really crowded right now, even in the morning, which is really weird because that was the first showing. So I'm walking back to my car right now, but oh my gosh, that was so good. There was so many references in it, and there was so many cameos that I was not expecting. It wasn't just Stan Lee this time, and I don't even understand all of them, but yeah, it's just a lot to talk about. So I will go ahead and save all my thoughts until I get home. I'm just gonna, yeah, talk about it there. So see you there.
Oh, hello, Hobo. Good weather we're having, huh?
Hobo, you want? Hobo. Guess not. More for me. Alright everyone, so I just got back from the movie theater and oh my gosh, I was right about my Watcher theory. So after I had watched the movie, they kind of made it seem like Stan Lee was a Watcher in it, and what a Watcher is that they're kind of just eternal beings of the universe, that their only purpose is to just kind of be in the background of major events and record it in history. So they just watch. They're not allowed to interfere. And throughout the movie, we get two scenes where, one, Stan Lee is sitting with a bunch of other Watchers, and he's telling them that last time he was a Federal Express worker, which is referencing Civil War. And then at the end, he's trying to continue telling his story to the Watchers, and they just kind of like ignore him and go off. So it kind of seemed like he was a Watcher, and he was just kind of like bragging about being in Civil War and all these other Marvel movies, and the only way that they would connect them together when he has all these random roles and jobs is that he is a Watcher. And then James Gunn confirmed the theory, which was pretty dang cool, so I just had to get that off my chest. But I hobo. Yeah, that was really exciting. So yeah, I guess spoilers from this point on, because I'm just gonna try to summarize the whole movie now, and yep. So the movie begins in the Sovereign, where the Guardians have been hired to protect a bunch of batteries from this intergalactic beast. After defeating the beast, they go to claim their reward, which ends up being Nebula. And on their way back to take Nebula to the ship to turn her in for her bounty, it turns out that Rocket actually stole the very important batteries that they were hired to protect. The Sovereign rather quickly discovered that Rocket had stolen the batteries and sent their entire fleet of drones after them. To which, they almost killed the Guardians before a mysterious figure flying on a spacecraft blows them all to bits. But, the Guardians had their ship so severely damaged they had to crash land on some random planet. After the Guardians begin to make repairs, they notice that the spacecraft carrying the person that had helped them earlier is landing next to them. The person then later reveals himself to be Ego, Peter Quill's father, along with his companion Mantis, telling Peter that he wants to try to reconnect with his son and try to be the father that he had always wanted to be. He invites Peter and Gamora and Drax to his planet, and they decide to go along with him just to kind of see if he actually is Peter's father. Meanwhile, they leave Rocket and Groot with Nebula to make repairs on the ship. In another part of the galaxy, we see Yondu and his Ravengers enjoying themselves in this prostitute planet, when all of a sudden he's approached by the leader of the Sovereign, Aisha, who is willing to hire him for a job to bring the Guardians of the Galaxy to her. The Ravengers eventually end up on the planet where the Guardians had crash landed using the coordinates that Aisha had given them of Peter Quill's ship. But in the very end, after having captured Rocket, he tells Rocket that he is willing to let them go in exchange for the batteries. To which the rest of his crew members do not agree. Well, a good half of them, because it seems like he had gone soft and delivering Rocket to Aisha would be much more profitable. Which starts an uprising amongst his crew members where half is split between having this new leader called Taserface, and half still wants to be loyal to Yondu. But, the battle is resolved rather quickly because Nebula had escaped during all of this ruckus, and she has destroyed Yondu's fin thing that allows him to control his arrow. Taserface's Ravengers then imprison Yondu, Groot, and Rocket and kill all of Yondu's supporters, except for Kraglin, who is pretending to be on Taserface's side. After some attempt to get Groot to help them to escape, it was only with the help of Kraglin bringing Yondu his prototype fin that they are able to get out, kill all the other Ravengers, and escape on a little ship in the front compartment of their main ship. But not before Taserface is able to tip off Aisha and the rest of the Sovereign on where they are going and the location of the batteries. Back on Ego's planet, Ego is trying to bond with Peter Quill. He explains that he is a Celestial and that he had met his mother on Earth and had fallen in love with her. After that, he explains that he had hired Yondu to bring Peter to him because he had been looking for his son this entire time. As for Mantis, she seems to bond with Drax because she is an empath and she can feel emotions. So although Drax puts on a very stone-faced facade, she can see through him. And with this newfound ability where she can see that he is actually a very sad or a very caring person, she finds the comfort to just kind of get close to him and share her past, where she explains that Ego had found her as a young child, and the reason that she has been kept around on his planet is because she helps him go to sleep. Gamora, on the other hand, pretty much finds no one to bond with because the entire planet seems very suspicious to her, and she notes that there are no other forms of life. But after Peter kind of shuns her for essentially it being her idea that they go to visit her father, and now her being so reluctant to support Peter in getting to know him better, she storms off into the middle of nowhere and decides to brood. But her brooding doesn't last very long because one of the terms for Nebula's agreement was that the Ravengers give her a ship and supplies and money, and with that ship, she used it to track down Gamora and is now determined to kill her. Which ends them up inside of the core of Ego, where they discover thousands and thousands of skull bodies, and they exclaim that they need to get off the planet. With Peter deciding to take Gamora's first advice, he decides to go with Ego and get to know him a little better and more about his heritage. Ego shows him that he can access energy within the planet of the core and draw it up through his hands, and that he is also part celestial being. So as long as he can access the center of the core's power, he will be able to live for all of eternity. Ego then explains that after he had existed in the universe, he had quickly realized that his life didn't have any meaning, at least not to him, and that he wanted more. He wanted to find other life forms. So after telling Peter that he essentially went planet to planet, mating and kind of partaking in the world where he landed's luxuries, he would plant a little seed of himself and leave it on that world and then move on to the next. And that he had actually loved Peter's mother very, very much, and that distracted him from his new purpose in life, which he had decided was to spread himself as far as can be and to make all life and all existence ego. Peter does not initially react because he is pretty much completely engulfed in his newfound celestial ability to see eternity. And as Ego goes on about how this mass spread of ego will essentially destroy all the other worlds and make them a part of him, he then lets something slip where he says that he was the reason that Peter's mother had gotten the brain tumor, which kind of snaps Peter out of it, and then he proceeds to attempt to kill Ego. After Peter decides to put up a resistance to Ego's plan when he realizes the gravity of the situation, Ego decides to pretty much use him as a battery and hold him powerless in order to activate all the seeds that he had spread across all the planets. With the guilt of this knowledge and the concern that she has for the galaxy, Mantis decides to tell Drax, Gamora, and Nebula what Ego is about to do, to which they decide that they have to stop him. Luckily for them, they have backup coming because Kraglin, Groot, Rocket, and Yondu have arrived in their ship. Mantis explains that they have to go into the core to find the core of Ego and destroy that he cannot be harmed any other way. So all the Guardians decide to go down into the middle of the planet and are now fighting against Ego, the living planet. Rocket manages to make a bomb out of the batteries that he stole and tells Groot to go plant it in the core of the planet and press the detonation button. They now have newfound company because the Sovereign has tracked down the batteries and they now have to fight against them as well. After a few failed attempts to explain the detonation button to Groot, he manages to understand and place the bomb on Ego's brain core thing and detonate it, to which the Guardians all manage to escape except for Peter, who is still fighting his father. Which, in the last moments, Yondu comes to rescue him, but sacrifices himself. So Peter Quill manages to get back to the ship, and Yondu freezes in space. With the galaxy safe from Ego's threat, and all the Sovereign fleets defeated, the Guardians decide to hold a proper burial for Yondu. Kraglin had gone ahead and contacted all the other factions of the Ravengers, and told them what Yondu had done in order to save the galaxy. And they had all attended Yondu's funeral as well, giving him a proper, heroic Ravenger send-off. Thinking back on Yondu, Peter Quill realizes that what he had been looking for, his father, had really been alongside him the entire time. And with all this family stuff in the air, Nebula gets a bit uncomfortable and decides that she is going to leave. And Gamora chases after her, explaining that they will always be sisters, but Nebula still decides to go off and try to kill Thanos. And that is the end of the main movie. So, after all the hype about knowing that Ego the Living Planet was going to be in the movie, to me he didn't really feel like the one that we had in the comics. Ego the Living Planet in the comics is an actual living planet. It's not a being that has a planet around it. It's just the planet is him. And it has a giant face on it. And we actually do get some shots where it's his face. The first one that we see is when Yondu and Rocket are first entering Ego's atmosphere, and it's kind of rotating, and then we see a face just for like 2 frames, and then it switches the scene. And then we also see his face when they are inside of the core, and Mantis had just used her empath abilities to stop Ego for a second, and then as he powers back up, his face forms a giant energy wall thing. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Speaking of Yondu, they very heavily focused on Yondu in this movie, and you know what? With the send-off that we got for him, I'm kind of glad that they did. So it seems like we got a lot of Yondu's backstory in this one when he bonds with Rocket, and he explains that his parents had sold him to slavery, and it wasn't until Starhawk, who is played by Sylvester Stallone, I have to say it like that, frees him and asks him to join the Ravengers that he's really felt freedom. He goes on to tell Rocket that there was only one condition that the Ravengers had set for him, and that was no human trafficking, which he had disobeyed by helping Ego collect all of his children from all these other planets and deliver them to his planet. So that was why Peter had stayed with Yondu, and after Yondu had discovered what Ego was doing with these children, he couldn't let it continue. So, although he was shunned by the original Ravengers, you know, we got that whole end thing where they finally accept him as a Ravenger at the end. But this is strange because this brings about another thing that I had noticed. So when we're first introduced to Sylvester Stallone's character inside of the movie, it's like, that's kind of weird. There was this diamond guy next to him, and it didn't really hit me until the ending scene of the movie and then the after credits scene that they're the Guardians 3000. So I only know those characters from that storyline, so that's what I'll call them. So in the end credits scene that we got with the Guardians 3000, we see Starhawks, Martin X, Mainframe, Charlie 27, Alita, and Kruger have all gotten back together in order to form the new Guardians, which I guess in this cinematic universe, they are the Ravengers, and that's why they're not recognizable immediately. So the fact that they kind of squeezed that in there and opened this new world of possibilities that they could do with all these storylines is really exciting for what Marvel has coming up in the cinematic universe. So another thing that I noticed that was also kind of squeezed in there is when Ego had activated the seeds on the other planets, the one on Earth is destroying the Dairy Queen. And for a few seconds, we see this car get lifted up, and inside is Star-Lord's grandfather, who is still alive. So that begs the question, what is Star-Lord going to do when he goes back to Earth for the Infinity War and he realizes that his family is still alive on Earth? How is he going to interact with them, and is he going to leave Earth again? So, I guess that's a storyline for Infinity War that I am going to be looking for, but you know, it's not guaranteed. That little cameo might have just been in there to kind of remind us that Star-Lord has a family on Earth. Another end credits scene we got is Kraglin learning how to use the telepathic arrow and the fin. And I think the reason that is in there is because of the previous end credits scene that we had gotten with the Guardians 3000, because one thing that, you know, comic book nerds that recognize the characters would know is that Yondu was a member of the Guardians 3000. So without Yondu, it's like, how would that team really work out? So it looks like they might have Kraglin kind of taking up that mantle. So maybe that's where they're going with that, or maybe he's going to be in the storyline, but again, that would be really interesting to see. We then got this end credits scene that more confused me than anything, because we see Aisha inside of the Sovereign, just kind of standing dismayed and defeated until someone comes to ask her what she's doing, and she reveals that she is creating a new, more perfect being inside of a birthing pod. that she will call Adam. But the issue with this is, in the last Guardians of the Galaxy movie, James Gunn had confirmed that Adam Warlock was inside of the collector's sphere thingies, collection thingies, and that he had the Aether / reality gem in the collector's museum. So, I guess they just retconned that shit or something. And then of course we get the last end credits scene that shows Groot, no longer baby Groot, but rather teenage Groot, just kind of being angsty and playing with a video game. So that, I think, is meant to show us that by the time we get the next movie, he's probably going to be full size again. Which, you know, yay! He's able to help in the battles again. Boo! No more cute baby Groot. So this movie was really, really engaging for me, and one thing that I really loved was just kind of all the characters they managed to very sneakily squeeze in there. Like the Guardians 3000, you know, Peter Quill's grandpa, Howard the Duck! We got Howard the Duck while Yondu was in the prostitute planet. And then in the very last set of credits, everyone has their own sequence when they're dancing, and one of them is the Grandmaster. I don't know if he's there just as a promotion for Thor Ragnarok, or if he's there because he was meant to have a scene in Guardians of the Galaxy, but it was really exciting to see Jeff Goldblum, and I was freaking out at that part. I don't think anyone else had any, like, effect to it, but I was like, the Grandmaster! And then we got David Hasselhoff! We got David Hasselhoff, and a lot of jokes with David Hasselhoff in him. So, David Hasselhoff was a reoccurring character, kind of. He was snuck in there a few times, and then we got a scene where Ego transforms into David Hasselhoff for a few seconds. So, there was a lot of people snuck into this movie, and that made it absolutely hilarious. And man, I am just so excited for, you know, the upcoming movies, Infinity War, and now Thor Ragnarok, because I know they have that little cameo of the Grandmaster in there. So I just want to know if that was meant to be a full scene and if I can see it. So yeah, if you haven't gone to see this movie, you should totally go check it out. It was really, really cute and really family friendly if you want to go take your family to go see that. So it was really great. I hope to see more of Mantis in the next movie. I know we might not, just because she's, you know, they might have an explanation for her being off doing her own thing, but it'd be interesting to see, and I really liked it. So that's all I got for you for now. Thank you so much for liking and subscribing, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Oh, hey there everyone! Thank you so much for watching this video. If you like what you saw, you can subscribe to my channel by clicking that circle button up there. Or you can check out some more of my videos along here. And I also got a Patreon set up that you can find by clicking that square button down there. See ya! I fucked up.